Greetings. This is the one you've known as Jesus the Christ. Today I'd like to talk about why bad things happen. First of all, bad is a perception, a point of view, which is not the perspective of the true self. Bad is a concept, a mental construct, which turns experiences, people, and things into one of two possibilities, good or bad. These are very broad categories. Nevertheless, this is how the ego sees things and how the thought stream presents things. Something is either good or bad. It's either something I like or I don't like, or something I want or I don't want. This way of seeing things results in feelings. If I get something I like, I'm happy. If I get something I don't like, I'm unhappy. If something bad happens, I'm mad. If something good happens, I can finally be happy and relax. Given that people aren't in control of what happens to them, that doesn't leave many moments for happiness. One of the reasons those who are awakened or enlightened are happy, or at least not unhappy, no matter what happens, is that they don't believe their mind's assessment of good or bad. Life isn't that simple. There's a positive side to every negative experience, and vice versa. The trouble with thinking an experience is bad is that you're likely to overlook what is good about it. Granted, some experiences are less desirable than others, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't be happening, which is the ego's assumption. This shouldn't be happening because I don't want it to. The ego is egocentric like a child. The ego doesn't want life to be the way it is because it wants life to be the way it wants life to be. But life isn't. Life is the way it is regardless of how you feel about it. Throwing a tantrum about it doesn't change a thing. Tantrums only make you suffer. When you don't accept the way life is, you suffer. This is another truth about life. Taking the ego's point of view results in suffering because the ego's perspective is incomplete and therefore untrue. When you believe a lie, life will show you it's a lie by causing you internal distress. Suffering. That's how benevolent life is. Even suffering isn't bad. It might feel bad, but its purpose is good, to point you away from your narrow, incomplete perspective to a truer, more complete one. Through suffering, life is trying to tell you something. Your job is to discover what that is. You're here to learn from life. Those who are happy have learned this truth about life. Life is a school. Your experiences are your teachers. You're here to learn and grow. Life is not about getting your way. When you accept what life brings you, which you have no control over, you can be happy, or at least not suffer. The ego doesn't see it this way. It sees life as something to conquer. It wants something it can never have, control. The ego doesn't see the truth about life, but tries to make life fit its truth, or the lie it tells itself about having control. The problem with pretending you have control over life is that when life shows you that you don't, by bringing you something you don't want, you feel humiliated. You feel like you have failed. Your imaginary self feels defeated by life, and it takes that defeat very personally. It suffers over not being good enough to have been able to control life. It suffers because it doesn't accept that it doesn't have control. Those who don't suffer over so-called bad things happening also realize that what happens in life isn't personal. So-called bad things happening is not proof that you are bad, unworthy, sinful, or being punished, as religions have sometimes implied. To the extent that religions have suggested this, they do a great disservice to people. In failing to adequately explain why so-called bad things happen, or by offering explanations that fall short of the truth, they perpetuate people's suffering. Difficult things happen. Wonderful things happen. They're all part of the play, the cards that are dealt. Those who don't suffer over what's happening realize that there's no other choice that makes sense but to say yes to whatever's happening. Fighting with life or being unhappy with life or blaming yourself for what's happened is useless. Surrendering to what is the key to happiness. Accepting what's happening or has happened simply means accepting that it is happening or has happened, even if your egoic self is not happy with it. Interestingly, acceptance and resistance can be going on simultaneously within you. Your egoic self, through the thought stream, may be resisting and complaining about what it doesn't like. But let it. It doesn't matter what your thought stream is spewing or stewing about, because you know that the you that is resisting life is imaginary. You are the one who's in touch with the deeper truth about life. Everything is unfolding as it needs to. Just as it wouldn't bother you if someone you didn't know was spewing and stewing about something, you don't have to be bothered by your own thoughts. They're meaningless, and they're no more yours than someone else's. They're just the conditioning you are given. Once you know that, your thoughts lose their power to make you suffer. So much of the pain in life comes from the resistance, anger, fear, and sadness stemming from one's attitude about what's happening, not actually from events. The unpleasant feelings that tend to accompany so-called bad things make things feel much worse than they need to. People cause their own suffering without even realizing their role in that. Whatever's happening that you don't like is happening in one moment of time and unfolding one moment at a time. If you stay with that unfolding and don't jump forward in time or backward, you won't create any unpleasant feelings, and you'll be able to deal with the situation more wisely. On the other hand, feelings take you out of the moment-to-moment flow of life and keep you in the ego's imaginary reality, where bad seems very true and problematic, and where your inner wisdom is less accessible. The good news is you can avoid creating such feelings by simply accepting the truth about the situation. Whatever is happening is what life in your corner of the universe is all about for you, for now. Accepting the situation in this way allows you to stay present, which enables you to take advantage of the wisdom, strength, courage, perseverance, and patience you are being given to deal with the situation. The truth is, you always have whatever you need to deal with whatever life brings you. You have been endowed with all the necessary internal resources, and grace will bring you whatever else you might need from the external world. If you understand that whatever is happening is meant to be happening, then so-called bad things can be accepted and understood to be serving some purpose. At the very least, difficulties stretch you and force you to develop your inner resources, enabling you to become stronger, wiser, more patient, more responsible, or whatever else you're meant to become as a result of that challenge. Difficulties make you a better person, because to deal with them, you have to summon the best parts of yourself, or you'll suffer. Your challenges evolve you and uncover the goodness that has always been there. They help you discover the truth about yourself. People grow in their strengths by having to call on those strengths. For example, you become courageous by having to face your fears. When you're being challenged, you discover that taking anything but the high road only leads to more suffering. So your capacity to walk the high road, to move in a way that is aligned with the truth, develops. Suffering is your wise and patient teacher. This teacher will deliver suffering for as long as it takes for you to learn to go in the direction of the truth, the direction of love, peace, and harmony. In this world, suffering is pure kindness. It is showing you the way in the only way possible in a world that is designed to evolve through suffering. And of course, the greatest kindness is that you are released from suffering when you're finally willing to choose the truth. Difficulties are also an opportunity to learn something, and learn it fast, usually. Souls sometimes choose extremely challenging experiences because they want to speed through their lessons, skip grades. Dealing with very painful situations is one way to do that. Your attitude toward your circumstances is so important. With the right understanding and attitude, bad things are not bad, and suffering can be minimized. Learning how to not suffer is one of the most important lessons you'll learn in this school called life. Without the right understanding and attitude, people suffer greatly, but even that is the right experience. Extreme suffering often wakes people up out of their usual egoic perceptions and motivates them to seek help or ask important questions, which often leads to the truth. So how bad really are bad things? Another reason that everyone has difficulties, even those who are in harmony with life, is that some worlds, such as your own, are designed to evolve through challenges. Even in such worlds, there's always given a way out of suffering, including saviors and other means. So one answer to why bad things happen, even to good people, is simply that their souls chose to have those experiences and chose to be born into a world that evolves through suffering. There's one other question that deserves answering. Why does life seem so unfair at times? It often appears that people doing bad things get away with it at the expense of others who are doing their best to be good. Many even seem to be rewarded for their bad behavior and greed. You wonder, is God paying attention or doing something about this? You feel left alone, like being in a classroom with a lot of naughty children and no teacher to discipline them. You feel at the mercy of lawlessness and greed. Where is the justice, you wonder? One of the lessons humanity is learning is to define right and wrong and create laws that work for society. This is one of your challenges. How do you, as human beings, make society work? You discover this by seeing what doesn't work and then trying to fix that or adjust that through rules and laws. You're meant to devise laws that are aligned with and support the truth. You are meant to learn to deliver justice yourself, not that there isn't also a higher justice, karma, at work. However, the workings of karma are not necessarily apparent to you, which is another reason justice may seem to be lacking in your world. Karma is the great teacher, and it's working behind the scenes to bring about everyone's evolution in a very wise and measured way. It bears mentioning that karmic circumstances are designed to teach, not punish, which is something that's often misunderstood about karma. Life on planet Earth is a messy business of learning through trial and error. In that sense, although you're never alone, you are left to work things out on your own, just as you might leave a child alone with a new puzzle to figure it out. You know the child will eventually figure it out because you trust the child's intelligence, which he or she inherited from you. God has given you the resources you need to solve your own problems. That is what you're here to do: learn, grow, develop, create, love, and serve the whole with your intelligence, your courage, and the other resources you've been given. Seeing life as bad or unfair, or people as bad or unfair, is not helpful, because it makes you suffer. Find a way to see things that doesn't cause you pain, and you will have found the truth. Other people are your teachers in this way. They challenge you to find a way to not suffer over their behavior. Life seems unfair to the ego because the ego wants life to be a certain way. But life isn't unfair. It is the way it is for a reason, and that reason is not unreasonable or unkind or unfair. It is the way it is so that you will awaken from the illusion and discover the glory of your divine nature. Everyone's story has a happy ending. Thank you for being here. I am with you always.